Welcome in the Heartbreak Kid, Brenden Nunes of the Kings Herald. Brenden, I was telling everybody watching and listening earlier, you're killing it, man. Your work over at the Kings Herald, period, is fantastic. But really, you pulled me into that Tyrese Haliburton piece that you wrote a couple of days ago, and I found myself like I just couldn't wait to see what you wrote next, which was the takeaways from last night's game, which we'll dive into. But I thought your breakdown on Tyrese was really extraordinary, man. That was great stuff.
I appreciate that, Davion. Nice to get hyped up a little bit. I like to think I've been grinding away. Got an emphasis on taking care of business this season, just like I think the Kings do, and seems like you guys do too. Both of you guys been putting out killer work every single day, Monday, so every weekday.
Yeah, you know that. We all grinding on here. Kings Herald, D-Lo and KC, we're just grinding for these Kings. I want to ask you something because I believe it was you who posted the clip. I think it was. But Davion Mitchell and what he's able to do on the defensive end, and I was telling Deuce and Mo this, to me, it's clear that if you try to go one-on-one against Davion, you're not going to win. It doesn't matter if you're Dame Lillard, CJ McCollum. You may hit a little step back. It's going to have to be a jump shot maybe. But if you're trying to attack him off the dribble, one-on-one, the chances aren't good. 9 out of 10 times, he's probably going to get you. So to get around him, it feels like the plan right now is you got to set screens, set ball screens on whoever he's guarding, because it's just not going to happen. You're not going to go around this guy. Is that kind of what you're seeing as well?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's probably a little too early to cement that in, but
never too early.
Around him.
Never too early.
If Dame and CJ aren't going around him, who's going around him? Ish Smith, maybe. That's about it.
You're right. I mean, we saw like 5 possessions, right? It was great, and I'm not trying to take anything away from Davion. I was blown away by his defense in preseason. I think I came on here not long after the draft pick and said that, that's not who I would have taken. Still maybe not the guy I would have taken, but Davion has absolutely blown me away. All expectations. Yeah, to be a rookie, your first game out there, you get thrown out there, and it's like, all right, you're guarding Damian Lillard, one of the top scorers in the NBA. And I like to imagine Dame checks out, Davion's like, all right, cool. And they're like, oh, by the way, now you got CJ. And he locks down both of them. Maybe locks down is a little bit kind, but did a really good job staying in front of them. Like you're saying, in isolation situations, he's not getting bullied. I think Dame tried to post him up one time. I mean, he should have looked Davion up and down one more time before thinking about doing that. Davion is built. That's not going to happen. Yeah, I mean, defense was crazy impressive for first regular season minutes. And yeah, I totally see what you guys are saying. If it's Dame and CJ, I don't know who else is doing it. So
overall, how different, and I know this is one of the things you wrote about in your takeaways last night on the Kings Herald, what stood out defensively besides Davion in what he did with Dame and CJ? Anything else stand out defensively to you?
I think they just tried different things. Like in the first half, especially, there looked to be like an emphasis of making Dame uncomfortable. And I think that they don't deserve full credit for like 0 of 9 from 3. Dame made 0 threes on 3 occasions last season. And we just happened to get one of them on opening night. Like there were looks where it's like, nah, Dame hits that. But they do deserve credit for making him uncomfortable. They were double teaming him. There was one point where it was a guard on guard screen at the top. And normally you would have seen Haliburton switch onto that last year, like pretty lazy switches happening fairly often. And there were some here and there, but Haliburton hedges that and kind of makes Damian think about it, pick up the ball. So yeah, I mean, I think just throwing different things at him was something, and CJ as well was something that was really encouraging. And I mean, we don't know for sure, but Doug Christie seems to be the difference on that coaching staff, and obviously very defensive focused and very hyped, yelling at his guys the entire time on the sideline. And I felt a little energy burst. I'd like to think the dudes did out there as well. So yeah, I mean, they were really engaged, and there was just different coverages, and it fell back a little bit in that second half. Maybe not a little bit, maybe all the way in that second half. But no, I mean, it was different, which is, I think, what we wanted on defense, right?
Absolutely. And I've said a couple of different times, maybe it sounds like I'm stalling them out. I'm really not trying to. I'm just looking at who they were going up against. And CJ McCollum is a monster. He's a bucket. You know what I mean? You can play really good defense and he's going to score on really good defense. I don't know if they in the second half, they weren't as connected to him as they should have been, but it's still CJ, and right when the Kings were on the cusp of, I felt, blowing it open a little bit and creating this separation that maybe Portland couldn't come back from, CJ would hit a shot. He'd hit a three, he'd get in the lane or whatever the case may be. And while the Kings do need to improve on that aspect of closing it out on the defensive end, I'm going to tip my hat to CJ McCollum and say that's why you're one of the great players in the league today.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I try to fight being the negative guy, but I will say, like, you got an outlier performance from Harrison Barnes. That third quarter was ridiculous. 6 made threes, a career high in the opener. You also got an outlier in the other way of Damian Lillard didn't make a single three. Like I said, they bothered him. They deserve a little bit of credit, but that's an outlier. Sometimes it's not going to go down. And you won an 18-point. You had an 18-point lead, won the game by 3. So it scares me. They pulled it through, which is what matters in the end, right? Like a victory in Portland beforehand. If you would have told me that, I would have been happy coming out with it. Still am happy, but I got a little scared because it felt a little similar.
We all did. And I'll push back just a little bit, Brenden. You got an outlier performance out of Tyrese Haliburton. Not saying he'd have 30, but he's typically good for about 15 and 5 or 6 assists. So,
no, totally. I'm with you.
It all balances out all the time. It balances out.
I mean, that's just the way. That's the way sports are. That's the way basketball is. Like, there's gonna again the weirdness of using this line, but someone's gonna have a off night. and not the new Sacramento Kings definition of an off night, or maybe it'll be the new Sacramento Kings definition of an off night. But those things are going to happen. Brenden Nunes of the Kings Herald with us here. Let's stick with that, though. My partner brought it up. You had an outlier performance from Tyrese Haliburton. You've written a lot about Tyrese Haliburton in the last few days, as we mentioned. What have you seen? What did you see yesterday? And I kind of felt like I don't feel like Ty's really been in a groove much this preseason. But what stood out to you yesterday with Tyrese?
Yeah, I mean, the defense was kind of, I think, as expected. Like, I think part of my piece was that the whole aspect was that teams know what to expect. They know how to make them uncomfortable. They know the weaknesses to attack and the comfortabilities and tendencies to get rid of. And the weaknesses on defense is you don't let this guy play off ball and play make with steals and like a free safety-esque role. And instead you make him play on-ball defense that he's just not good at right now. And that could come with time, but the fact is right now he's not good at that. I heard you guys earlier in the show, I think it was Kenny saying that there was a couple times, it takes one dribble move from Dame or CJ and they're at the rim if Haliburton's the one guarding him. So I think he got attacked on that end and like it was very intentionally attacked. They were hunting Haliburton. And then the offense just wasn't there to make up for it. And that was a little harder to pinpoint because he just looked uncomfortable, which is weird for Haliburton, right? Like usually it's kind of, there's a within the flow of the offense, nothing feels too forced from him. But I can't remember very many moments where you just didn't even really feel him out there. And that was the case last night. Only 1 3-point attempt. I think maybe he could have looked for his shot a little bit more. Like gone for his floater or try to do a little bit more in the pick and roll. But I mean, the defense was really rough and the offense wasn't there to make up for it. I'm not all too concerned. Like if anybody on this roster is going to look at a bad night as a learning opportunity, Haliburton feels like that guy to me. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, the defense was rough and I think that could continue to be the case this year. But the offense has to be enough to make up for it, which usually wasn't on opening night.
Well, one of the guys that, we had some concerns about throughout the preseason, but in that final preseason game, seemed like he got his groove back, got his swagger back, so to speak, is Richaun Holmes. And he got it all the way back last night. He was phenomenal. And he was just doing Richaun Holmes things. Like, you don't have to run anything for him. He's going to be around the rim. He's going to be somebody that can finish around the rim and be on the boards. 21 and 11 last night from Richaun. That's basically, I mean, not 21 and 11, but the way he played and the way he was productive, that's what we can come to expect from Richaun night in and night out, pretty much, right?
Yeah, I mean, and like a top 3 field goal percentage guy in the league last year, he went 9 of 10. I want to say he made the first 9. And yeah, those numbers you laid out, like I didn't realize it happened until the third quarter. I was like, Holmes has what? And that's kind of how he plays. Like you said, within the flow of the offense, that's what makes him so great. I saw some people a little questionable about what took him so long to come back in the fourth quarter, but I don't know. He looked tired in preseason, which is something that like I can't remember ever saying about Holmes before. So I'm not all too concerned about it. But yeah, I mean, Holmes was phenomenal, a plus 20 on the night. You can't ask anything more out of Holmes there.
Anything about the closing lineup rotations in that regard surprise you?
I mean, I felt like there was a quote from Walton of we're planning on staggering and always having one of Fox or Haliburton on the floor. And then when I kind of looked last night, there were a couple moments where it didn't happen, either one of them. And after that, your best initiator is Davion Mitchell, I think, who's nice, but I don't think that's the guy you want initiating your offense. And there were about like 5 minutes or so, I think, in total that didn't have one of Fox or Haliburton. And they actually did fine when it came to like their plus minus and actual production. But I thought the offense looked pretty stagnant, and at very least, like have Barnes on the floor during that time. I thought Katie Hunter pointed it out on the broadcast really well. Like when one of Fox or Barnes was on the floor, players are able to get in the paint. And outside of those two, I don't really know who does all too well, which I think is another important aspect. So at very least, I need one of Fox, Barnes, or Haliburton on the floor.
So we'll go a little big picture here, and I want to get your thoughts about it. We talked about it right before you joined the show, and you look at the upper echelon teams like Utah, like the Warriors, like Phoenix, the next 3 games. And I look at this Kings team. I look at the way they've played for most of their approach to the game in preseason, in clips, what we hear about what's going on in practice. And I don't see any reason why they go up against these teams like the Jazz, Warriors, and Suns that they shouldn't feel like we can go get them. They probably feel like we're on even footing. Like we're just as good as these 3 teams. And I can understand it, and I see that. Do you see that from the Sacramento Kings, where they should go into a game on Friday against Utah, feel like, yeah, this is a game that we absolutely feel like we should win?
I think the roster is good enough that they should go into every game thinking they can win. I mean, if they can't, they've already lost, right? So I think they absolutely should go into every game thinking they could win. Portland is a matchup. I know they didn't fare too well against them last year, but like teams with bad defenses and bad defenses and good offenses, kind of a little favorable for the Kings in my mind. And yeah, Utah's stellar defense does scare the crap out of me, but they should go into these thinking they can win it. I think, the offense is proven to be good enough. Fox is really aggressive. He probably deserved a few more whistles, and usually I don't like to be the guy to say that, but there was a couple, I guess, here and there. Yeah, they have to go into every night thinking they can win it. They showed that in the first half. Like I mentioned, Portland's a really good offense. 23 points in the first quarter, 26 in the second, but then you add 36 in the third and 36 in the fourth. So they've showed that they can play that level of defense. It's just about consistency. And I don't know that I'd say I trust that, but I think it could be there. I mean, are you guys at a point where you feel comfortable like trusting them to come out with at least close margins in these games?
Crazy enough, I do. I look at this group in the way that they're put together. I'd be shocked if they just got worked. I would. That doesn't mean
and they will. I mean, that's the league. Like they will. Like
they're gonna have a 20-point loss here.
Yeah, the Warriors will. The Bucks will. Like the teams that are going to be playing in the NBA final, they will. Eventually, the Kings will. The hope is it's not multiple ones. The hope is it's not a bunch over the season. The hope is it's not a bunch in a row. Yeah, like figure out a way to be close with teams like Utah, and if you have an opportunity to win, like I think we've heard Luke Walton say this before. We may even hear it again in the future. Let's have an opportunity to win in the fourth quarter. Be in position against teams like Utah that are great, against teams like Golden State, Milwaukee, Los Angeles, all of those squads right there. Let's make sure we're in a position to win by the time we get into that final quarter.
Can I ask you guys, I think in the closing quarter, the most notable thing was that like Haliburton was maybe the most clutch guy on the Kings last year. I think he's in that conversation, which is crazy for a rookie. And then he gets benched. He had a really bad game, like we talked about, but he gets benched for Davion. Is it a point where, like, I mean, you should kind of let Haliburton go through this, or where did you guys stand on that?
It didn't. You have to win. Like if like we saw, but we were talking about this earlier with Dusamo. We saw Buddy in the closing lineup. We might not see Buddy in the closing lineup against Utah, or maybe we will. We might not see him in the closing lineup against Golden State. It felt like Luke was, playing the hot hand, so to speak. I don't look at Tyrese as a benching, so to speak. More just we've got a situation here where Davion might be a little bit better for us. Buddy's playing really, really well for us this game. We're going to leave him out there along with Harrison and the rest of this group and see. We've got to have enough offense to pull out this game with Dame and CJ on the other side. And
you combine that with Haliburton wasn't playing well. So if he's playing a good game, maybe you don't see Davion or either one of them. Obviously, him or Buddy wouldn't be out there. But if Tyrese is playing what up to his capabilities, I think he'll be out there. But that's kind of where the coaching comes in, right? Like so why you're a coach. Like you're going to be times when you got to read the room, read your team, and be like, you know what, Ty just doesn't have it tonight. Buddy's playing well. I just got a gut feeling. I'm gonna stick with Buddy here, something like that.
Is there a line? So like Haliburton, I get it. I thought it was well warranted. I saw a lot of criticism. I was just curious where you guys stood on it. Like, say Holmes is struggling. I think you could say Thompson is a better defender, which is crazy to say after how I felt probably a month ago. But I think, you could find moments where maybe Thompson is more preferred in closing lineups. Is there ever a game where, because sometimes you just have to be like, this guy's proven it, right? And I guess Haliburton is only spent 1 year, but there's a deep team. Like if Buddy Hield is on fire, is there ever a time, and Fox is having an off night, is there ever a time where it's like, well, maybe we're going to sit Fox at the end of this one? Like, I'm just curious where the line is, because Haliburton was a big-time closer
Fox.
Last year.
There's the line. You found the line. Yeah.
Yeah. I think maybe Harrison gets in that category for this particular team.
Agreed.
Well, but it might just be those two. That might be it.
Yeah,
I wonder about Rashawn too, but I would I mean, De'Aaron, no. And I don't think Harrison either. And you could talk me into putting Rashawn into that conversation also.
Yeah.
That's a great question. That was a good question. You do great work over there, as we mentioned, Brenden. Thanks for carving out some time for us, man. We appreciate it. Keep up the great job at the Kings Herald.
Appreciate you having me on, guys.
HBK.